Okay, so I'm a programmer, and I recently went to learn how to use Android Studio. As you do, watched a bunch of tutorials on YouTube. And then after I watched a bunch of tutorials, I noticed that YouTube started recommending me these videos, but not like, they weren't like programming tutorials. They were videos on how to learn how to code. And after I watched a few of them, I quickly noticed a trend that a lot of them were really bad. Like, a lot of them were just not good. Like, they were just giving bad advice. So, I'm gonna watch them now and show you. These aren't hard to find. I'm just gonna put in some search terms that I think a person who's trying to learn programming for the first time would type into YouTube. What programming language should I learn first? It's a good question. I think it's a fair question to ask. I'm gonna try and find one with a more clickbaity title. Stop learning these programming languages for beginners. And first thing I noticed is it has four of the most widely used programming languages in the thumbnail. Like, I think all four of these would be good choices for first programming language to learn. C++, Java, Python, JavaScript.
Programming languages are not NFTs. They are not Pokemon cards. They are not something you collect. They are not something where you collect 10 of them and you get hired for a job. In truth, if you're new to programming, you can skip a majority of them.
That's true. A lot of people seem to think that how many programming languages you know is the measurement of how good of a programmer you are, but actually, how good the programs you make are, that's what measures how good of a programmer you are.
Recommended languages for new programmers are time wasters or at worst will demoralize you. So
Now, that's not true. I mean, really, I honestly don't think any of the major programming languages is a bad choice for your first programming language. They all run off the same basic concepts. Every major modern programming language has the same data types, has the same control statements, has the same loops. And really, if you're learning to code, you need to get good at, you need to understand those concepts and need to be able to use them well. And you can learn those concepts using any of the major programming languages out today. So really, you can become a good programmer with any programming language. And then once you're a good programmer, you can learn any other programming language pretty easy because even though they have some different details in how they use these basic concepts, they all do use the same basic concepts.
if you're new, you're self-taught, you're looking to choose that first programming language, let me show you which ones that you can completely skip. Let's start by knocking out two birds with one stone. I would avoid C# and Java. Now you
What? No, I think C Sharp and Java, they're very similar. C Sharp and Java, they're so similar, you can kind of just talk about them together. Um, I think they're good introductions to, the object-oriented programming style, which is what most large groups or companies use today. I don't see any reason why someone shouldn't learn it as their first language. I'm honestly struggling to imagine what reason he's going to give for why you shouldn't learn it.
have to understand, this hurts me deep in my bones because I am a huge fan of C#. And look, in truth, C# and Java both are very popular programming languages. They have a large online community of support, and knowledge of either can absolutely lead to landing a job. But my biggest grievance with both is fairly simple. Neither are that easy to get up and running and to make progress with, at least if you're new. For example, C#, you have to download the .NET runtime, the .NET framework. You have to compile your code to something, so you need a command line tool, or you need to download Visual Studio or have an extension in Visual Studio Code. And in the beginning, while you're learning, if you want to build some projects, you're pretty much limited to console applications, which is pretty boring. Java has some similar challenges with the setup process.
You just called console applications boring? There's a lot you could do with a console. And setting up a .NET framework isn't that hard. Just look, let me show you. Let me show you how to install Java. None of these videos are more than 10 minutes. It's not that difficult. It doesn't take long to download and start coding in Java. What's he?
But for most of you guys who are new to this field entirely, this is going to be a bar that's just a little bit too high for you. So instead, what you want to pick is something that's relatively easy to start coding projects with right away. For example, JavaScript is a great example of a programming language where all you need is a code editor and a browser, and you can start building websites, web applications fairly quickly.
I don't really think JavaScript is that much easier than Java. Like, you still got to wrap everything you do in HTML. I think, every if you like, the only programming language that really comes to mind as like an easy programming language that you can just like download and immediately start coding in is like Python. But I guess that's only if you want to use Python console applications, which this guy hates for some reason. Okay, yeah, I'm probably just gonna skip over the rest of that video because I just watched the rest of it and I think everything he says after that's actually not that unreasonable. Just okay, let's try and find another video. Oh, look at this one. Why you should not learn how to code. Tech lead. I'm pretty sure this guy's he's famous for making a few controversial videos. Let me try and find some examples. The fall of coding. I'm retiring. It's over. Uploads 4 more videos after that. What is a woman programmer edition? Bitcoin to $1 million. Yeah, good luck with that happening. Then right after, Bitcoin is over. Why I stopped helping people as a millionaire. 7 millionaire money lessons to change your life. Alone on Valentine's Day as a millionaire. Bitcoin is back. Oh my god. Yeah, this guy is kind of wait, I remember this. I think he had let me find it. Tech lead Russia. Yeah, this guy's kind of he's a bit of a troll, bit unironic. It's hard to tell where he balances between that.
Hey, welcome back, Tech Lead here. Now, I keep getting asked this question, how do I learn to code? As people try to switch into the field of software engineering for the big bucks. And I wanted to answer this question for you once and for all. See, the thing is, with the rise of machine learning and artificial intelligence, coding has just become a very brain-dead skill. You don't need to write algorithms or data structures anymore. You don't need to reverse some linked list. You just send all of your inputs into a machine learning algorithm, which is going to reverse that linked list for you and output the results with...
What? No, does this guy think that what programmers should be doing all day is reversing linked lists? No, I actually think it's more the opposite. ChatGPT and all that, it's fine at copy pasting some code off Stack Overflow, but I mean a good programmer should be able to do more than just copy paste some code off Stack Overflow. Like, sure, if your programming knowledge goes up to I can reverse the linked list, then yeah, I guess it could be replaced with AI, but I don't think... But I think a typical programmer knows more than that.
98% probability that's going to be right. And so data has become code, obsoleting a lot of the job functions that programmers used to have. And if you think about it, this kind of applies to mathematics as well, because we used to come up with mathematical formulas to try to explain the world. But when everything is machine learning, is there a formula for the result of a machine learning algorithm? Probably not.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Or at least it would be even a different formula for each person based on their likes and dislikes in order to give them some personalized feed recommendation. And so in the world of machine learning, math kind of breaks down, and similarly so does programming. This is because programming has become so dumbed down by machine learning that all you have to do these days is wire a few buttons together, change the color, change the font a bit, and this is something almost anybody can do that. Nowadays, employers are selecting based on race and gender rather than actual skill because the higher end skills aren't even going to be needed anymore. Now, I don't think this discussion would be complete if I didn't mention that not everybody's meant to be a programmer. You know,
I think, of course, it goes down to this idiot fear-mongering about social justice warriors, but no, uh, real moment-to-moment programming has not been dumbed down by machine learning. Machine learning has taken down the dumbest parts. It's kind of the opposite of what he's saying. The changing font size, changing color size, that's the part that's the part of programming that's getting replaced by ChatGPT. Writing algorithms, comparing what's more optimal with this versus that, creating new, inventive, more efficient ways to do things. That's the area that's still being done by humans. That's the area that actually takes skill, not. Oh, but no, if you don't get higher, I'm sure it's the social justice warrior's fault, not yours.
So you kind of thought that we were on the same level, right? I look normal. I don't really dress up that well. And so you think I'm relatable. But that's kind of a show that I put on for you guys, just so that you watch me on this channel. But in reality, I'm pretty up there. I'm pretty up there. And I know it's easy to underestimate me with my down-to-earth look. My hair, I haven't really combed it or done anything special with it. But I could. And that's the thing, I could. Most people...
Don't worry, bro. Don't worry, bro. I'm not mistaken by your skill at all. I'm completely 100% sure I know your level of intelligence.
To me asking which programming language they should learn for 2021. And if you're asking that question, you're already on the wrong track because you probably need 3 languages, like a front-end language, a back-end language, and a database language. Not...
What? Yeah, oh my god, this is... Sure, whatever. You want to work at Google, you probably can't get hired if you just know JavaScript. But, you still got to learn a first programming language. You can't learn 3 programming languages at once, right?
Not to mention, you want a bunch of other skills like design, marketing, communication, and possibly 3D math and physics for gaming, or statistics.
Yeah, you need skills to be a programmer. It's a skilled job. You can learn them. If you're overwhelmed by programming, saying, it'll take me 10 years to learn all these things, 10 years is going to pass anyway. I mean, you got to do something in 10 years.
For data science. And so there's this huge long career path you actually have to go down. In order to become a programmer, you have to become a nerd.
This is so gatekeepy. It's like, oh, you're clearly not smart enough to want to be a programmer. Don't you know that the special, most intelligent types of people? I don't think you have to be particularly smart to be a programmer. You just have to spend the time to learn the skills, like with any other skilled career. If you want to be a mechanical engineer, you need to put in the effort it takes to learn mechanical engineering. You don't... that's kind of it. Why do you gotta be so elitist about it, man? We're not special. We're not.
Computer for 12 hours a day. Most people can't seem to do it because it makes them feel too nerdy. They have to go out shopping after a while. They got to go to the beach, go to the park, make a cupcake, play with their dogs, talk with their friends for 3 hours, and then they come back home and they have to watch their YouTube videos on why you should not learn to code. So that's the thing. You have to actually want to be a programmer. And
You don't need to grind for 12 hours a day to learn how to code. It doesn't... I mean, you can, people do, but again, it's I don't think it's a especially difficult skill compared to any other thing in STEM. You can... I'm confident someone can become a very good programmer without grinding 12 hours a day, for ages. You can... I think if you were to walk into Google's offices, most of the engineers there will tell you, yeah, I have a social life, I got a wife, I got they have hobbies, right? People... programmers have hobbies, can have hobbies outside of coding.
the last thing to understand is that glory was never the domain of the programmer. It is the domain of the entrepreneur. Most programmers out there, you never hear about them. You never even see them because they're stuck indoors all the time. If they were to come out, the population of the world would probably double. But it's a good thing that they don't because they're stuck in their basements reinstalling Arch Linux over and over again, copy and pasting random code from Stack Overflow to their unfinished projects and wondering why it won't compile, or trying to fix random bugs in React Native because it's open source and nobody really cares about it anymore. And meanwhile, all of the great war stories that you heard about programmers, people like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, or myself, people like us, bugs in React Native because it's open source and nobody really cares about it anymore. And meanwhile, all of the great war stories that you heard about programmers, people like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, or myself, people like us, People like us, we were closer to entrepreneurs. We saw opportunities more often than not opened up by new technologies and went after that in order to make impact in the world. So consider that your passion for coding may actually be a passion for success. The craft may not be as important as the result. Is the painter passionate about his brush and the colors, or about the inspiration that it leaves on his audience? So I would say this, overall.
So yes, a programmer, you're like a genius entrepreneur, but you're also like working the grind 12 hours, but you're also like a painter, but you're also like really handsome. Like, imagine being this guy's co-worker, right? Like being, like working in an office with this guy, and like having like normal office small talk with him, and then years later finding his YouTube channel, then like seeing him talk about himself like this. Okay, I've had enough of this guy. I'm gonna try and find the video that inspired me to make this. Why Most People Fail to Learn Programming by Aaron Jack. 1.6 million views.
Alright, I've been making programming videos on YouTube for over 2 years now. And in that time, I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of messages of people asking me how to learn to code, telling me their plan for learning to code, saying they got super inspired. But unfortunately, a lot of these people, they never make it. Now, it's not because they're not smart enough, but I strongly believe it's because they fall into one of 4 traps. Now, these are mistakes that if you can avoid them, the only thing that stands between you and that programming career is being distracted with YouTube videos like this. Just one more though. In this video, I'm going to talk about those 4 traps. Anyway, let's get right into it with the first traps. Growth versus fixed mindset. Now, growth mindset is what you want, where you're focusing on how much better you're getting at something every day instead of how good you currently are. So if you look over the past week, how good were you on Monday versus Friday? That's really what you should be focusing on, because if you do that, it's just a matter of time before you get closer and closer to where you actually want to be. I'll give you an example. I'm learning Russian right now.
I mean, yeah, I think that's good advice. I think it's much better to tell yourself, oh wow, I learnt a new way to do this today, instead of saying, oh my god, I'm not grinding 12 hours a day, I'm ruined, I'm never gonna become the janitor at Google. Like, yeah, that's decent advice, but let's keep on with the video.
Now, the next trap that you've almost certainly heard of is called tutorial hell. I prefer to call it the tutorial treadmill though. It's where you keep running, doing tutorial after tutorial, and you're not going anywhere. You're in the same place, and your enthusiasm just slowly goes down. You get discouraged because you feel like it's too hard. But I'm here to tell you that you haven't actually gotten any closer to mastery until you write your first line of code without help.
No? What? Like, I feel like that's just a strange bar to set, and also kind of contradicts what we just said earlier. Like, if you've watched a tutorial, and after watching the tutorial you know what an if statement is, like you didn't know what that was 10 minutes ago, you've improved. Like, you've quantifiably become a better programmer. I mean, you're still very far distance from being a master, but you're quantifiably closer.
All right, let's talk about trap number 3, which is not choosing a niche. So a lot of programming YouTubers will say, don't focus on specific technology, focus on general programming skills, and you're gonna be fine. So I don't necessarily agree, and here's why.
That's just keep on watching.
Companies are fundamentally hiring you to solve a business need. And if you can't do that, they're gonna have to train you from scratch. Okay, you'll have the foundation of programming, but if you can't solve the problem from day one and someone else can, why are they gonna hire you? Just think about it. What do I mean by niche, and how do you choose one? Well, a lot of people focus on programming as a whole. That's way too broad. You can go down to something like JavaScript or Python. That's still too broad though. What you really need to do is keep going deeper. So go into JavaScript, go deeper into React, and then start building React web apps with Next.js, and that'll be your niche stack. So now, any company that uses React, and especially Next.js on top of that, they're gonna see you, and you're gonna be the perfect fit. So just from a...
Okay, I'm just gonna pause. So, I don't know what to say. Like, I think hearing that, I think that advice is just worse than nothing. Like, I think giving someone that advice is just worse than, like, not making the video. Again, like, from, like, the previous tip, it sounded like this video is intended for someone who's on the how to write a function in Python level of trying to become a programmer, right? Like someone who's just starting. How are you even supposed to pick a niche at that point? How are you supposed to know if you would prefer machine learning or if you prefer data science if you haven't even, according to this guy, haven't even wrote real code yet? For someone who's just starting to learn how to code, trying to pick a niche is like trying to pick food at a restaurant when you've never ate anything before. Again, like, I was like, someone at this point even supposed to like have a full concept to understand what a JavaScript framework is, let alone pick which one they're gonna stick to for the rest of their career. Apparently, like, like the, like no, it's like you learn, you try out different things, and you find the one that you want to stick with. That's like just how you do anything. That's like how you learn anything. Like that's why do you need to pick a niche right away? And like the first programming language you learn, the first JavaScript framework you use, or the first types of code you make aren't going to have any bearing on your career 5, 10 years down the line. So what does it matter? Like, like imagine this guy going up to a kid, like drawing stick figures with crayons and being like, "You need to choose a niche. You need to choose a niche. You can't learn. Do you want to do graphic design or 3D modeling? Do you want to use do you want to use gray lead pens or felt tip pens?" And he like grabs he grabs their drawing, and the kid starts crying, and then he starts screaming about something about JavaScript. I think that's that's an exaggeration. Still, why you just are you like? Well, but I just don't understand the need to put so much pressure on someone learning programming for the first time. Like I'm trying to empathize someone with this position. Like, you're learning programming for the first time, which, it can be overwhelming to begin with. It's like it's just like, because to begin with, when you first start learning programming, there's a lot of new information you have not been presented before in your life that you need to understand all at once, right? Like the first bit of being a programmer is just overwhelming with just the sheer volume of just new types of thing you have to deal with, and then after a while you get used to it, and then it stops being overwhelming. But there is always going to be that point where it's difficult for anyone. There'll be that beginning point where it's hard. Yeah, and these videos, I'm imagining someone in that position going onto YouTube and watching these videos and just being so overwhelmed, making them so anxious that they would just give up. Like you're adding all these extra bits of pressure onto them. You have to choose a niche. You can't do this. You have to do that. You can't do this. It's pressure. It's unnecessary pressure you're just adding onto them. This is not good advice. If the advice you're giving is unnecessarily making the thing the person's trying to do more difficult, then stop giving advice. That's my advice.